The restaurant was one of those expensive steakhouses where the prices aren't listed on the menu and the waiters wear actual tuxedos. My brother Mike had chosen it, which should have been my first warning that something was wrong. Mike never paid for dinner, let alone picked places where appetizers cost $40. "Order anything you want," he said magnanimously, gesturing at the menu. "Tonight's on me. We're celebrating." Across the table my parents beamed at him. My sister Jennifer looked impressed. Even my Uncle Paul, who never approved of anything anyone did, was nodding with something approaching respect. "Celebrating what?" I asked carefully. "You'll see." Mike's smile was wide, confident, the smile of someone who believed they'd done something extraordinarily clever. "Let's eat first. I want to do this properly." I should have left then. Should have recognized the setup, the performance, the carefully orchestrated family dinner that had nothing to do with celebration and everything to do with Mike's ego. But I was tired from a long week, and the thought of going home to my empty apartment and reheated takeout was depressing enough that I stayed. We ordered prime rib for Mike, filet mignon for Dad, salmon for Mom. I chose the cheapest thing on the menu, a chicken dish that still cost $38, and tried to ignore the way Mike smirked at my choice. "Always so cautious," Jennifer said, sipping her expensive wine. "Never taking risks, never splurging. That's your problem, Emma. You're so busy being careful that you forget to actually live." "I live fine," I said quietly. "Do you?" Mom's voice was gentle, but the criticism underneath was clear. "You're 32 years old, honey. You live in that tiny apartment, drive that old car, never go anywhere or do anything. We worry about you." "I'm fine," I repeated. "You're stuck," Mike corrected. "You've been stuck for 5 years. Same boring job, same boring routine, same boring life. Meanwhile, the rest of us are out here making things happen." "Mike just closed a huge real estate deal," Dad said proudly. 3 commercial properties in one transaction. His biggest sale yet. "Congratulations," I said. "Thanks." Mike's smile sharpened. Though honestly, I couldn't have done it without family support. That's what tonight's about, acknowledging how family helps family succeed. The food arrived. It was excellent, perfectly cooked, beautifully presented. I ate slowly, waiting for whatever Mike had planned. The anticipation felt like waiting for a shoe to drop, like watching storm clouds gather on the horizon. Dessert came. Crème brûlée for everyone except me. I declined, knowing Mike would make some comment about my weight or my frugality. He did anyway. "Emma's always worried about money," he said, cracking the caramelized sugar on his dessert with unnecessary force. "Never wants to spend a dime. Never wants to enjoy life. Just hoards everything in that savings account like some kind of Depression-era grandmother." "There's nothing wrong with being responsible," I said evenly. "Responsible?" He laughed. "Is that what you call having $2.3 million sitting in a savings account earning basically zero interest? Because I'd call that stupid." The table went silent. "How do you know how much I have in my savings account?" I asked, my voice very calm despite the ice flooding my veins. "Because I checked," Mike said, pulling a folded paper from his jacket pocket. "Had to verify the funds before I could make the transfer." "What transfer?" He unfolded the paper with a flourish, holding it up like a trophy. It was a bank transfer receipt. My bank. My account number. A transfer of $2,287,543.18 to an account in Mike's name. "Finally put your money to good use," he announced, waving the receipt. "You can thank me later." The family applauded. Actual applause, like Mike had just performed a magic trick instead of committing a federal crime. "What did you do?" I asked, still in that unnaturally calm voice I'd learned to use in crisis situations. "I invested your money properly," Mike said proudly. "That commercial real estate deal I mentioned? I used your savings as the down payment. 20% down on a $11.5 million purchase. The returns are going to be incredible. We're talking 15 to 20% annually once the properties are developed." "We?" I repeated. "You and me. Partners." He grinned. 60-40 split. I get 60% since I found the deal and I'm doing all the work, but you get 40% of the profits just for providing the capital. You should be thanking me. In 5 years your $2.3 million will be worth at least $4 million. How did you access my account? I asked. You left your banking login information on Mom and Dad's computer 3 years ago, he said. Remember when you were paying bills during the holidays and used their laptop? You saved the password. I found it last month when I was helping Dad with something. Figured it was a sign. A sign to steal from me? Not stealing, he corrected, his smile faltering slightly. Investing. For both of us. You're so risk-averse, so scared of everything. I knew you'd never agree to do something smart with that money. So I made an executive decision. As family. To help you. Mike's always looking out for his sister, Mom said warmly. This is wonderful, honey. Finally your money is doing something productive instead of just sitting there. Emma never would have invested it herself, Dad agreed. She's too afraid of losing it. Mike did her a favor. I carefully set down my fork and pulled out my phone. I had 3 missed notifications, all from the last 10 minutes. I opened them. The first was from a number I'd memorized 5 years ago. Transfer detected. Tracking initiated. Stand by. The second was from a different number. Suspect account identified. Funds frozen. The third was from a name I knew very well. Special Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI Cybercrime Unit. 8 minutes. Maintain position. I looked up from my phone to find my entire family staring at me. Everything okay? Jennifer asked. Fine, I said. Just checking something. Probably checking her account balance, Mike laughed. Freaking out that the money's gone. Emma, relax. I'll send you monthly statements. You can track the investment returns. How did you transfer that much money? I asked. Most banks have daily transfer limits. Security holds on large transactions. I spread it out over 3 days, Mike said proudly. Transferred $750,000 each day, then the remainder this morning. Took some planning, but I made it work. You accessed my account multiple times over 3 days. Had to. Like I said, security limits. He was still smiling, still completely oblivious. The bank called once to verify, but I just said I was you. Said I was making an investment. They bought it. You committed bank fraud, I said quietly. I committed smart investing, he corrected. There's a difference. No, I said. There really isn't. Uncle Paul cleared his throat. Emma, I know you're upset, but Mike really did you a favor here. That money was just sitting there. Now it's working for you. That's good financial management. Plus, you get to be part of Mike's success, Jennifer added. His business is taking off. He's going to be a millionaire. And you get to share in that because he was generous enough to include you. Generous, I repeated. Very generous, Mom confirmed. A 60-40 split when he's doing all the work? That's more than fair, Emma. You should be grateful. I checked my phone again. New message, 3 minutes. The thing is, I said conversationally, that account you accessed wasn't actually my personal savings account. Mike's smile dimmed slightly. What do you mean? I mean it's not my money. Of course it's your money. It's in your name. It's in my name, I agreed. But it's not my money. It's evidence. The table went very quiet. Evidence of what? Dad asked slowly. I can't tell you that, I said. It's classified. But I can tell you that the account you just emptied, Mike, is a federal evidence account maintained by the FBI as part of an ongoing cybercrime investigation. I'm the custodian of record because I work for the FBI. That $2.3 million is tagged, tracked, and monitored by the cybercrime unit. Mike had gone pale. You work for the FBI? I'm a senior digital forensics analyst, I said. Have been for 5 years. The boring job and tiny apartment are part of my cover. The money in that account is evidence in a major cyber theft case. It was stolen from multiple victims by a criminal organization we've been tracking for 3 years. We recovered it and it's been sitting in that evidence account pending trial and restitution to the victims. You never told us you work for the FBI, Mom said weakly. Because my work is classified, I said. I investigate cyber crimes, money laundering, online fraud networks. Most of my cases involve organized crime syndicates. My real identity, my real life, all of it is protected information. I don't advertise what I do because it could compromise active investigations or put me at risk. So that money, Jennifer trailed off, is federal evidence, I confirmed. Tagged with tracking algorithms. Every movement of those funds is monitored in real time by our systems. The moment Mike initiated the first transfer 3 days ago, alarms went off. The cybercrime unit has been tracking every transaction since then, documenting everything, building a case. A case against who? Mike whispered. Against whoever stole federal evidence, I said. Which would be you. Mike's face had gone from pale to gray. I didn't know. You knew it wasn't your money, I said. You knew you didn't have permission to access my account. You knew you were transferring funds without my authorization. Those facts don't change just because you didn't know the money was federal evidence. But I thought I was helping. You thought you were stealing, I corrected quietly. You found my login information and instead of telling me about the security breach, you used it to access my account multiple times over 3 days, transferring over $2 million to yourself without my knowledge or consent. That's theft, Mike. That's bank fraud. And because the money happens to be federal evidence, it's also obstruction of justice. The restaurant had gone oddly quiet around us. I glanced around and realized why. 4 people in business attire had entered and were positioned near our table. I recognized Rebecca Torres immediately, her FBI credentials already visible on her belt. That's them, she asked me quietly. That's him, I said, gesturing to Mike. Michael Torres, my brother. He initiated the transfers. You called the FBI? Mom's voice was shrill. On your own brother? I didn't call them, I said. I didn't have to. The transfers triggered automatic alerts. The cybercrime unit has been monitoring this since the first transaction 3 days ago. Rebecca stepped forward, her badge now in her hand. Michael Torres? Mike couldn't speak. He just nodded. I'm Special Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI Cybercrime Unit. You're under arrest for theft of federal evidence, bank fraud, identity theft, and obstruction of justice. Stand up, please. Wait, Dad said desperately, standing up. Wait, this is a misunderstanding. He didn't know. Sir, sit down, one of the other agents said firmly. Everyone remained seated except Mr. Torres. Mike stood slowly, his legs shaking. Emma, please. Tell them it was a mistake. Tell them I didn't mean. You meant to steal $2.3 million, I said. You planned it for days. You executed it deliberately. The only mistake was thinking you could get away with it. Rebecca handcuffed him efficiently. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The restaurant's other patrons were openly staring now. Our family sat frozen, watching as Mike was read his Miranda rights in the middle of an expensive steakhouse. What about the real estate deal? Mike asked desperately as Rebecca began leading him away. I put the money down. It's in escrow. The deal closes next week. The funds have been frozen, Rebecca said. The escrow account has been seized. The deal is void. And the $2.3 million will be returned to FBI custody within 24 hours. But I'll lose the deposit. You'll lose a lot more than that, Rebecca said. You stole federal evidence. You're looking at 10 to 20 years in federal prison. They let him out. The restaurant was completely silent now, everyone watching as my brother was escorted out in handcuffs. I turned back to my family. Mom was crying. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Jennifer and Uncle Paul just stared at me in horror. You let them arrest him, Mom whispered. Your own brother. He stole $2.3 million in federal evidence, I said. What did you think would happen? We thought you'd fix it. Dad shouted. You work for the FBI. You could have stopped this. No, I said calmly. I couldn't. And I wouldn't. Mike committed serious federal crimes. Multiple crimes. He accessed protected systems, stole tagged evidence, committed bank fraud, and attempted to hide the proceeds in a commercial real estate transaction. Those crimes don't disappear just because we share DNA. But he's your brother, Jennifer said. And he's a criminal, I replied. He found my login information and instead of telling me about the security breach, which would have been the right thing to do, he exploited it to steal millions of dollars. He planned this. He executed it over multiple days. He committed deliberate, premeditated crimes. He was trying to help you, Mom sobbed. He was trying to steal from me, I corrected. He just wrapped it in language about investing and family, and helping to make himself feel better about it. But the truth is simple. He found access to money that wasn't his and he took it. You could have warned him, Uncle Paul said. You could have told him what that money was before he used it. I couldn't tell him anything, I said. My work is classified. The existence of that account is classified. The investigation it's connected to is classified. I'm legally prohibited from discussing any of it with anyone who doesn't have clearance. Not even family? Especially not family, I said. Because family can be leveraged. Family can be manipulated. Criminal organizations target investigators' families specifically because they know people will compromise their principles to protect loved ones. So you just let him walk into a trap? Dad demanded. Mike walked into a crime, I said. All by himself. Nobody forced him to access my account. Nobody made him transfer the money. Nobody told him to commit fraud. He did all of that on his own because he saw an opportunity and took it. The waiter appeared hesitantly. The check, sir. Dad looked at him blankly. Mike was paying. Mike is in FBI custody, I said. I'll get it. I pulled out my personal credit card and handed it to the waiter. The bill was $847.63. I paid it without flinching, left a generous tip and stood up. Where are you going? Mom asked. Home, I said. I have a long debrief tomorrow. I'll need to document everything that happened tonight for the investigation report. You're just leaving? Jennifer looked stunned. Your brother was just arrested and you're just walking away? Yes, I said simply. Because there's nothing more I can do here. Mike will be processed, arraigned, and assigned a federal public defender. He'll likely be denied bail given the severity of the charges. Then he'll await trial. How long? Dad's voice was hollow. The trial? 6 months to a year probably. Federal cases take time. And prison. If convicted, which he will be, the evidence is overwhelming, he's looking at 10 to 20 years. He'll probably serve 8 to 12 with good behavior. Mom made a sound like a wounded animal. He stole $2.3 million in federal evidence, I said again more gently this time. What did you expect? A slap on the wrist? Fine. These are serious crimes with serious consequences. He's your brother, Mom repeated like it was a magic phrase that could change reality. I know, I said. But that doesn't change what he did. It doesn't change the law. And it doesn't change the consequences. I left them sitting there in the expensive restaurant, surrounded by the remains of the celebration dinner that had turned into a crime scene. The FBI field office was 20 minutes away. I drove there in silence, my mind already shifting into work mode, compartmentalizing the personal from the professional. Rebecca was waiting in the interview room when I arrived. You okay? I'm fine, I said. That was your brother. I know. He studied me for a moment. Most people would be more upset. I'm upset, I said. But I'm also a professional. Mike committed crimes. I did my job. Those two things don't cancel each other out, but they also don't change each other. Fair enough. She slid a tablet across the table. I need your statement. Everything that happened tonight, everything he said. We'll use it in the prosecution. I spent 2 hours documenting everything. Mike's confession about finding my login information. His admission about spreading the transfers over 3 days to avoid security limits. His statement about impersonating me to the bank. His description of the real estate deal. All of it would be used against him. This is a strong case, Rebecca said when I finished. Maybe the strongest slam dunk I've seen in 5 years. Your brother basically confessed to everything in front of 8 witnesses in a public restaurant. He didn't think he was confessing, I said. He thought he was bragging. He genuinely believed he'd done something clever. He did something incredibly stupid, Rebecca corrected. Stealing federal evidence? Accessing FBI systems? That's not clever. That's a one-way ticket to federal prison. I know. Are you going to visit him? I thought about it. Probably not. That's cold. That's honest, I said. Mike has spent our entire lives treating me like I was stupid, worthless, a failure. He mocked my career, my choices, my life. He thought I was pathetic. And then, when he found what he thought was my money, he stole it without a second thought because he believed he deserved it more than I did. So this is revenge? No, I said firmly. This is consequences. If Mike had accessed my account and found it was my personal savings and stolen it, I would have reported him just the same. The fact that it was federal evidence just adds charges. But the fundamental crime, the theft, the fraud, the betrayal, that's what this is about. Rebecca nodded slowly. For what it's worth, you did everything right. You maintained your cover, you didn't interfere with the investigation, you let the system work. That's good protocol. Thanks. Your family won't see it that way. I know, I said. But my family's approval isn't worth compromising my integrity. Over the following weeks, the case proceeded exactly as expected. Mike was arraigned, denied bail, and held in federal custody. His lawyer tried to argue ignorance. He didn't know the money was federal evidence. But it didn't matter. The theft charges alone were enough. My family tried calling me 247 times in the first week. I blocked their numbers after the 15th voicemail, calling me a traitor, a monster, and various creative profanities. Mom sent an email. How can you sleep at night knowing your brother is in prison because of you? We raised you better than this. You've destroyed this family. I didn't respond. Dad's email was shorter. You're not our daughter anymore. Don't contact us again. I wouldn't have anyway. Jennifer's was the most interesting. I hope you're proud of yourself. Mike was trying to help you and you destroyed his life. His kids don't have a father now because you cared more about rules than family. You're heartless. I deleted it without responding. The trial happened 8 months later. I testified for 3 hours, walking the jury through exactly what had happened. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, transfer receipts, security footage, recorded phone calls where Mike had impersonated me to bank officials. And of course 8 witnesses who'd been at that restaurant dinner. The jury deliberated for 40 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge was not sympathetic. Mr. Torres, you didn't just steal money, she said. You stole federal evidence in an ongoing investigation. You accessed protected systems. You committed bank fraud, identity theft, and obstruction of justice. You did all of this deliberately over multiple days with planning and premeditation. And you did it to your own sister, someone who should have been able to trust you. She sentenced him to 15 years in federal prison. My family sent death threats. The FBI investigated, found them credible enough to warrant protective monitoring, and added charges against Uncle Paul for threatening a federal officer. I changed my phone number, moved to a new apartment, and went back to work. 3 years passed. I was promoted to Assistant Section Chief of the Cybercrime Unit. My salary increased to $183,000. I bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood outside D.C. I dated occasionally. I made friends with colleagues who understood that sometimes family loyalty has to take a backseat to integrity. I never visited Mike in prison. Never wrote. Never responded to his letters. My parents retired to Arizona and told everyone in their new community that I'd died in a car accident. It was easier than explaining they had a daughter in the FBI who'd sent their son to prison. Jennifer got married and didn't invite me. I wouldn't have gone anyway. I lived a quiet, successful life. I was good at my job. Really good. I led investigations that dismantled major cybercrime organizations, recovered hundreds of millions in stolen funds, and put dangerous criminals in prison where they belonged. And I never, not once, regretted reporting Mike's crimes. Because some principles are more important than family approval. Things like integrity, justice, the rule of law. Things like knowing that you did the right thing even when it was the hardest thing, even when it cost you your family's love, even when it left you alone. Mike was released after serving 11 years with good behavior. I heard about it through law enforcement channels, not through family. He never contacted me. My parents passed away within 2 years of each other. I found out when their estate lawyer tracked me down. They'd left everything to Jennifer in their will with a specific clause excluding me. Our daughter Emma is not to receive any portion of this estate as she has proven herself to be without loyalty, compassion, or family values. I had the lawyer send me a copy of the clause. I framed it and hung it in my home office. Because family values, I'd learned, shouldn't include accepting crime. Shouldn't include protecting criminals. Shouldn't include compromising your principles because someone shares your DNA. Real family values mean integrity, honesty, accountability. Real family values mean doing the right thing even when it's hard. Even when it costs you everything. even when you end up alone. I was 45 years old when Mike finally reached out. A letter forwarded through official channels because he didn't have my address. It was short. I don't expect you to read this or respond. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand. Prison gave me a lot of time to think. A lot of time to realize what I did. Not just the theft, though that was bad enough, but everything before it. The way I treated you. The way I dismissed you. The way I saw you as less than, as someone whose success was something to resent instead of celebrate. You were right. About all of it. I stole from you because I thought I deserved your money more than you did. I thought I was smarter, more ambitious, more worthy. I thought you were weak. But you were never weak. You were principled. You had integrity. You knew who you were and you never compromised that, not even for family. I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I destroyed my own life through my own choices. The fact that those choices hurt you doesn't make them your fault. It makes them mine. I just wanted you to know. You were right to report me. You were right to testify. You were right to let the system work. And I'm sorry. For everything. Mike. I read the letter once, then filed it away. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe someday we'd rebuild some kind of relationship. Or maybe not. Either way, I was fine. I had my career. My house. My principles. My integrity. I had the knowledge that I'd done the right thing even when it cost me everything. And honestly, that was worth more than any family's approval could ever be.